Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Church of Cannabis this morning on Sunday morning. Glad you all could come and pray with us. So with that, why don't we get started? We have two great presentations today. Well, let me introduce myself. My name is Charles Felix. I'm the owner and publisher, along with my wife, Carol, of Cannabis News Florida and South Florida Hospital News. And on top of that, we also have designated me as the executive director of the Florida Medical Cannabis Physicians Group. So you, as physicians, if you're interested in being part of that group, we meet once a month by Zoom or twice a month by Zoom, depending on what's going on. Come by and see me, email me, and I can get part of the group. It's a no-charge group, and it's a great place to be at least one time during the month. So with that, the presentations we have today is from the OMMU, or as one might say, it's Good Friday Sunday and God, because they are the God of us. They actually control us. They make good things for us, bad things for us, but they are the gods of cannabis in the state of Florida. So with that, I want to introduce you to the goddess, which is Carmen, and the two gods relating to that are Todd and Chris. And we have a great presentation, a lot of stuff that you've been asking for, walking by their booth. They've actually changed their presentation to be able to accommodate the things that you want to be able to see today. So with that, I am going to go introduce them and turn it over to them, and thanks for coming this morning.
Thank you. Morning, y'all. Amen. So, while we're waiting for the presentation to get up, I'll start by introducing myself. My name is Carmen Dixon. I'm a nurse consultant for the Florida Department of Health, Office of Medical Marijuana Use. My once upon a time, long story short, used to be a nurse, now I do this. Actually, I'm still a nurse. I used to be a trauma nurse, and now I do this. Had plenty of experiences in my past of patients who I've seen I don't like to use the word benefits, but I've seen their use of medical marijuana improve their lives greatly. I always like to tell the one that sticks out to me the most. I had a patient of mine, young kid, 20-ish years old, motorcycle, no helmet, took it straight into a pole, and he was my patient for a long time, probably about 2.5 weeks on a ventilator, rotoprone bed, oscillating ventilator, you name it. He had all the goodies, all the drips, everything. Got him to the point that we were able to rehab him to a long-term care facility, still on a ventilator. Moving forward, probably about a year or so, I'm in the grocery store, minding my own business, and might I say, it's funny to me how if I'm dressed to the nines, I don't see anybody out and about. But if I look like I just rolled out of bed to run up to the store to grab some eggs, I see everybody. So he comes running up to me. He knows who I am. I did not know who he was. And he's, oh my gosh, I remember you. I remember those eyes. You were my nurse. And once I realized who he was, I was actually dumbfounded. There is no way that you're the same kid. He's telling me his story, his rehab story, what happened to him. At the time, he said he was on like 15 different medications, something to stop seizures, something for pain, something to help him sleep, something for anxiety, PRNs here and there, whatever the case may be. And at 23, 24 years old, it just wasn't the life that he wanted to live. So at some point, he hit rock bottom. He basically said he called a friend of his, told him, look, I'm done. I don't want to be here anymore. I'm going to end this. His friend's like, please don't. I'm on my way. Friend came over and just like a good friend, bought a bottle of liquor and a little something extra. He smoked it for the first time, and he said he was absolutely dumbfounded at the improvement that he felt, and then started using recreational marijuana just because of how it made him feel and the reaction that he had from it. Moving forward, he mentioned that, he had a conversation with his neurologist and was like, look, I'm going to be totally honest with you. I've been smoking a little marijuana because, it's just been too hard for me, and it's been really, really helping me. Neurologist is like, oh, well, if you want, I'll just go ahead and write you a recommendation for it. I would have suggested it a long time ago, but I didn't think that that was one of the things that you were interested in. Long story short, again, that's just one of those random examples of some of the things, the qualities that medical marijuana can bring to some people's lives. In addition to that, it also points out to me the importance of just basic communication. Communication between doctors and patients, communications between patients and doctors, and from our stance, our ability to promote that communication. One of the reasons we do what we do is to do just that. We would like to provide information and education to our physicians and our patients about medical marijuana program, and we like to open up that door to make everybody comfortable with having the conversation of possibly incorporating medical marijuana into your treatment plans with your patients. So that's my introduction and my once upon a time, but now we get into the good part. So first off, I can tell you, we're gonna go over a lot of stuff. We made this absolutely gorgeous presentation where I was gonna click through stuff and do my Vanna White modeling and all that. We've switched it all up, so it doesn't even matter. I'll point out a few things, but one of the things that we strive to do is listen to everybody. We listen to our patients and try to accommodate their needs, and we listen to our doctors and try to accommodate their needs. And one of the things that you guys have mentioned and said and begged for is demonstration, understanding. So we are going to incorporate a live demonstration of some of the updates that are coming to the medical marijuana registry, and we'll mention some of the updates that's coming to the program. All the rest of the stuff that I'm going to be saying is pretty much blah, 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 blah. But I have to do the foundation and the groundwork, so bear with me for just one moment. Getting into the Office of Medical Marijuana Use. I think I already gave you a pretty good foundation of who we are, but basically, as mentioned, we're the gods. No, we're the ones who, don't record that. No, we're the ones who pretty much oversee the entire medical marijuana program for the state of Florida. Our overall goal is patient safety. Period. Our overall goal is to be successful with this program, period. Do we do it well all of the time? We try to. Are we perfect? I think I am. But for the most part, if we make mistakes or if we hit a bump, we learn, we evolve, we grow as much as we possibly can. And again, the bottom line is we're listening. We listen to our patients, what they want, what they need, what they're looking for. We listen to our doctors. The reason why we switched up our presentation is because, again, we listen to our doctors. We know we're rolling out some changes. We thought this would be a perfect opportunity to take to show you what those changes are and keep you and make you comfortable with them so that when they do get implemented, it's not kind of a wrench in your day, just trying to keep it moving forward with your patients. So we do everything. We oversee the businesses, the laboratories, we oversee and try to make suggestions for the rules, which brings me to another point that I have to say before I forget, because if I don't say it now, I'll completely forget and think about it on the way home in the car and be like, oh, I should have told them that. But one of the things, if you've noticed, when you guys come by our booth and you make your suggestions and you're talking to us, we're writing stuff down like crazy. We, in some instances, don't have the power to make a change or fix something right then and there, but we do have the ability to take it to the people who we know can make those changes, can start making suggestions and start batting their eyes to legislation so that we can get what the people want. You guys make our program successful. Our patients make our program successful. Even though we're viewed as the gods, we're pretty much just the bottom of the pyramid. We're just the foundation, but you guys are the ones that build it up and make it into a pyramid. With that being said, I have to basically break down the foundation for you. Office of Medical Marijuana Use, we're built of pretty much 3 different departments: operations, compliance, and regulations, and licensing. All very boring. We all just sit there twiddling our thumbs, trying to make sure that we look pretty when we're doing it. I'm kidding, I'm sorry, take that out. But no, with the operations part, that's pretty much going to be the day-to-day operations of our Office of Medical Marijuana Use. We're gonna cover the basic operations, we're gonna cover communications, which is pretty much what I do, what we do, outreach to go to different events. I think just this month alone, Todd and I both are probably racking up about 25 to 30 hotel nights, and countless hours of windshield time because we're doing all the traveling to get in front of the people, to get in front of physicians, to get in front of patients especially, to make sure that we are putting that information out there. We are all about education and information. We don't advocate, we don't encourage, we're not insisting that people use medical marijuana or anything like that. We just want to provide the information. In addition to that is the data and registry system. That's the part that you guys love. I'm blessed enough to not have anything to do with the registry. And it's probably my favorite part about this job. I got a feeling if I dived into that black hole, I'd be way, way, way busier than I am today. But our operations portion pretty much covers that. With that said, then we have licensing. They're the ones that deal with all the red tape. That's the best way to put it. All of the businesses that come through the state of Florida pretty much go through them. And then lastly, we have our compliance and regulations. One of my favorite, I get to actually play on both teams. I work on the communications side with the outreach, and then I also do inspections of all these different facilities. I always like to point out, we do background screenings on many different levels, and we have a background screening team that pretty much goes through and makes sure that all those are done correctly. In addition to that, compliance, basically making sure that the MMTCs are doing what they're supposed to do. We actually have people who vet their websites, making sure they're not selling snake oil and promising all the best miracles coming from their products or anything like that. And if they are, none of them are, by the way, but if they are, we're the ones that's going to hold them accountable for that. Our laboratories, we are currently at the point where we test every final product that goes out to a patient. Every final product that goes out to a patient is run through our independent laboratories, and we're also in the process of creating and having our own laboratory that we're building in Jacksonville that hopefully will be operational soon. And then inspections. Right now there are 25 businesses operating in the state of Florida. I think we have 22 that are pending, maybe, kind of, sort of, whatever the case may be. But of those 25 businesses that we have in the state of Florida, we do an average of about 1,400 unannounced inspections on those businesses. With that 1,400 number, we're actually a little bit off our target mark. We're required to go in and do unannounced inspections, but with that 1,400 inspections that are unannounced that we're going to do regardless, we also do variance inspections. So if they make any changes to their business, any changes to their layout, we do inspections for complaints. So if someone is complaining about a particular MMTC or a particular product or anything like that, we're going right back in. So the 1,400 that I mentioned, and like I said, I'm pretty sure I'm lowballing that number, but the 1,400 that I am currently doing, that we because I'm a god, I can do it all by myself. But the 1,400 that we are currently doing are just the basic unannounced inspections that we are required statutorily to do for these. And keep in mind, this is with our, I don't want to call it a skeleton staff, but we're realizing the growth of the program, and we're realizing the growth of medical marijuana in the state of Florida. So we're actively hiring, training, bringing on new people so we can make sure that this program runs smoothly and make sure that we keep, again, our patients and our doctors happy. You want to do the updates? You want me to keep going? I'm going to bring Todd up. He's going to give you an introduction to some of the updates and changes that have taken place with the program, and then the part that you guys all have been waiting for, the live demonstration.
Good morning. I'm Todd Schimpf. I'm the communication manager for the Office of Medical Marijuana Use. I was going to handle, again, this presentation kind of from here on out, but talking with the doctors and stuff that we have the past couple of days and stuff, a lot of asked for us to do a live demo instead of going through. We had slides and stuff to do our instructional guides, but we're blessed enough to have Chris with us on this trip, so we decided to go ahead and make that change and do a live demo for you guys today. So you'll be able to see the process of going through of adding a patient for you guys and things like that, and then be able to ask us some questions and stuff on it. Real quick, just kind of updates that we've had coming up through here. As Carmen said, we're always listening to our patients, our doctors, trying to make it better for them. We can't always succeed or do what we're asked, but we try. One of the big things we had were with patients, we were receiving a lot of phone calls on patients not knowing where their documentation was. We had decided to do a documentation dashboard for them so they could see where the document was in the process. This was supposed to be implemented when we did these updates this part of the year. We actually went ahead and put that in back in November just because we were getting so many requests on where it was, what's the process, where's the status of my RFE, what's the status of my 2PC, all of those, they are now able to go ahead and look and see what the status, whether it's review, whether it's submitted, whether it's approved. Something else that we added for our law enforcement, prior to this, our law enforcement had to email us if they ever ran across something that was an 893 violation. So law enforcement was just emailing us the basics of the case and stuff for us to do our research into CCIS to make sure the charges were pending and all of those things. So one of the things we made a change for law enforcement was we added a 893 violation reporting system to the registry to kind of help ease that ability for law enforcement.
Could you clarify an 893 violation?
893, yeah, 893, it is. It's, yeah, no, 893 violation is basically drug possession. So it's the real serious crimes and stuff when law enforcement finds somebody who's carrying 10 ounces and is not supposed to be or something like that. So that's what an 893 is. And again, according to our statute, when we get a patient that is under investigation for an 893, we have to suspend their card until that case is heard out. So we suspend the card as soon as we're notified by law enforcement. Once the case is done, if the charges are dropped, the patient can apply, will contact us and let us know that the charges have been dropped, and then we'll go ahead and reinstate, or if the charges stick, then that patient is then no longer a patient. They will stay suspended out of the registry for then on out. Yeah, it's got to be, the accused is it's got to be correct. It's got to be put into the system and stuff that they were arrested for this. So again, we'll get notified. If they do the arrest, he's investigated, and then those charges are dropped, we'll get notified, and then he'll be reinstated. But the statute clearly states in 893, which they're accused of, we have to suspend until that's taken care of.
Do you report the suspension to certifying physician?
No, it goes through the registry for them. So the physician will go in and be able to see that they were suspended and that their card has been suspended.
Physician only would know when they go and check.
Correct. We notify the patient and stuff. Yeah, we're by statute, we have to notify the patient. So we notify the patient and then send a certified letter to them explaining what's going on. But we don't include physicians. I mean, it's something we can bring back and see if it's something that we can add in.
What about dispensary? Do you notify dispensary?
No, but dispensaries will see it when they go in. If that patient goes in and tries to dispense, it'll come up and say they can't because they're suspended.
It's like equivalent to PDPM for opioids.
Yeah. The other big thing that we have just added in the process of adding is the seed-to-sale system. The seed-to-sale system, Emergency Rule 64ER24-2 was implemented earlier this year, requires all of the medical marijuana treatment centers to integrate their seed-to-sale system with the state's seed-to-sale system. So this system will allow us, of course, to track and monitor what's being produced by the MMTCs. It also allows us now to further, for patient safety and stuff, if there is an issue with a product and stuff, the seed to sale can help track it back to where it came from and what we need to do if there's other products that came from that same batch of those type of thing. This process is currently being implemented. So I think at this time we have like 8 or 9 of the MMTCs that are fully integrated with the system, and the rest will be done hopefully by the end of this year. So now comes the part where we're making the change. So we are making a change, several changes to the registry. We are making some infrastructure and content updates to the thing, hopefully to make it better for you guys. As I talked to some of the doctors in the meeting, we're rolling this out in several phases. We've already rolled out law enforcement. You guys are going to be rolled out. The physicians are going to be rolled out on Tuesday, Monday night. And then the patients will be rolled out on June 17th, and then the medical marijuana treatment centers will be rolled out on June 24th. We did this process, kind of as I explained to them, to help us, one, roll it out to where we can do it in increments and then we can test while we're doing it. So we rolled out law enforcement because they're one of our smaller groups. Let them get in and see if there's anything that we missed in our testing. Then we can go to the doctors who are a little bit a larger group than the law enforcement, do the same thing for you guys. There'll be roughly a 3-week period between that and the physicians being, or the patients and caregivers being released. Let you guys get in there and see if there's anything that we missed so we can fix it, go there. And then when, of course, we release it to 880,000 people, we're hoping that it's going to be as strong as possible so we don't have problems and stuff with patients and with access to the medicines and stuff that they need. So with that being said, I'm going to turn it over to Chris Broussard. He is our IT supervisor for our registry. So he is the gentleman who's leading this massive project that we're doing to do these infrastructure updates and stuff on the registry.
All right, good morning, everybody. It's been a long time since I've ever spoken on a microphone, so forgive me if, some issues with it. But yeah, we did try to clean up the registry. It's an ongoing project. It's a big project. We're doing all the roles, law enforcement, physicians, patients, caregivers, MMTCs. And physicians involved a lot of testing to make sure that we got things right. There may be some things that we missed. So whenever we do release it to you all, if you do see anything, if you notice anything, please let us know. We'll work as quick as we can to fix it. But for today, I'll go ahead and just walk through kind of what it's going to look like when it gets released Tuesday morning. Whenever you first get to the registry, it's going to look very similar. You're going to get to the normal landing page. It's got any updates from the office. We make this public for anybody to see. You're going to have your home option up here. You're going to have login right here. And that's same as in the existing system. Login page looks very similar. We'll go ahead and get signed in. Bad password. There we go. Okay, so we kind of took out the people search option, brought that to its own menu option. It used to be under patient management, but we figured it's such a frequently used page. Let's go ahead, let's bring it out, make it its own thing. It's easier to find. And so whenever you go to the people search page, we've switched that up pretty significantly. You used to have to scroll all the way down to see all the different methods of searching for people in the registry. But instead, it's kind of all in one place. You can see it a lot better, all the different methods, the different people to search for. So if you want to search for a patient, you're going to click the patient search icon. You're going to have these search methods down here, name and date of birth, patient ID, and date of birth. And it's the same for the caregiver. You're going to have name, date of birth, caregiver ID, and date of birth. Now, when you get to the actual search fields, we do tell you what is required to search. And so for physicians, we do require first name, last name, and date of birth, and the information has to be an exact match as the person exists in the registry. So we'll go ahead, we'll conduct a search real quick, just to see what that looks like. Actually, I'll do a bad search, show you what that looks like. I'll just enter anything. It's going to say return 0 results. So if we do a good search,
Carmen and
you can get us the facility to do it. We can do a Zoom at noon time if you'd like.
Would others like to have their staff have an opportunity to go through exactly what we're doing? No. What's that? Yeah, if there's updates, I mean, you know, I'd like to tape it like Shell is so I can show my guys do that.
The videos are gonna be available afterwards. Let's let them get through the presentation. Let's let them get through the presentation.
So we'll go ahead, we'll do the search here. It's going to take us right to the profile. And that's where the most significant changes have happened, is the patient profile and the view of the different screens for the profile. Some things that I want to point out. We've moved the patient ID number up here. It's one of the first things you see when you get to the profile. And we land on this Manage Patient tab. From the Manage Patient tab, you're going to have some other tabs up here. We've changed it to like a tab-based layout. Instead of scrolling all over the patient profile page, looking for buttons, looking at orders, looking at the certifications, again, we've moved it all to one place, so things are much easier to find on the profile. You're going to land on this Patient Information tab right here. And again, it's all the same fields that exist in the current system. We've just kind of refreshed it, given it a new look. Then we have, yes? We do still have that option. Our next tab that we have under Manage Patient is Manage Caregiver, and so that's going to show you any caregiver assignment that exists for the patient. With that, we're going to give you the first name, the last name, the caregiver ID, their close relative status, and then the actions would be view, remove, to go into the caregiver profile. This person obviously does not have a caregiver, so we'll get to that later and show you kind of how to navigate to that page from here. We also have the certifications tab, so you can see all of the certifications kind of on its own page. You can go into the certification details of an existing certification, or you can jump over to the orders. From here, we do have the orders tab. It's going to default you to the order summary page if orders do exist, so that you can review the existing orders. And you can see order 1, 2, and 3. You can see the routes that were ordered, the milligrams per day, the total for each route, whether a delivery device was authorized, the start date, the duration of days, and then any order notes that you've given to the patient to help with dosing instructions, that sort of thing. And then the order status. And then from here, we do have the Cert Docs tab as well. And so this is going to show you any certification documents that are associated to any active or scheduled certifications. We don't show on this patient-specific Cert Docs page, we don't show the certification documents for historical certifications. It's really what is relevant for the current certification or scheduled certification. Yes, there is. We do still have the certification documentation dashboard, and so that's where you'll find historical certification documents. Our next button over here is the Show Order History. This should look somewhat familiar, but we are going to show all of the historical orders, and of course we're going to show the open orders on top, and then we'll have our scheduled orders below that, and then any closed or canceled. This person's only ever had one cert, so they don't have any canceled or closed orders. One big change that we also did was a button over here that is Show Open Order Details. And so this is going to show exactly what the person has available to them for each order and route at that very moment in time. And we did this for all of the roles that are able to view orders. So patients, when they go to their profile, this is the very first thing that they're going to land on, because that is what they're most likely interested in going into the registry. What do I have right now? Of course, we do still have the Show Dispensable Amounts page as well. This page should look familiar. We didn't want to change it too much because we feel people were starting to understand how to use this page. Additionally, we do have this patient status section right here, and that's going to go over low THC products. If the person has been ordered low THC products, we're going to have a green check for yes. Marijuana for smoking would have a green check for yes. Medical marijuana products, green check. Delivery devices, green check. Carries valid OMMU card. So this is a red X. This person does not currently have an active application or an approved card. And so we give these indicators just as a kind of a quick glance. You know what they have as far as their card and what they've been ordered. And then down here, we do give a summary of the demographic information. Unfortunately not, but we have gotten that as a suggestion. So that is something that we're going to take back and see if we can implement with the new site. We've gotten that quite a few times as a suggestion. So we can go ahead, jump into creating a new patient. Again, you're going to find that on the My Patients dashboard. We have the same icons that you see in the existing site. All My Patients to see all patients that are assigned to you. Uncertified patients, there are none, but this would show you all uncertified patients. Patients whose certifications are expiring soon. Certified patients, you can jump over to People Search from here as well. And then we have our Add New Patient. So one thing that we did with adding a new patient, you used to go through multiple screens. You'd say, does this person have a SSN? Yes. Then you enter the SSN. Does this person have a Florida driver's license? Yes. Then you enter that. We put it all on one modal.
The little things.
It is. It's the little things. So we'll go ahead. We'll enter in a person's information. And so we are still integrated with Florida HSMV. So if there is a match with the information that you enter here, it is going to pull that information over. For the purpose of this demo, I don't have an HSMV person, so we're just going to go through it manually. But we do still pull the info from HSMV. Additionally, if you have somebody that is like out of country, they may not have an SSN, they won't have a Florida driver's license or state ID. So we do have this checkbox down here. I do not have either an SSN or Florida state ID. If you want to bypass this modal, you'll just check this box down here, and you would hit continue. And then it just takes you to the page to enter it all manually. But we'll go ahead, we'll just enter it here.
Yeah, you get that with, you'll have people who...
Yeah, you'll have people who are also redacted, law enforcement, former law enforcement, that you run into that same issue with. Unfortunately, there is nothing we can do at this time. We're looking into, on the application, adding in a mailing address for a patient to where, again, if they have a P.O. box that they use instead of what's on their driver's license, they'd be able to fill that information out. So it's something we're looking into to see how we can do it, because we are getting requests from patients and stuff on that same issue. But unfortunately, right now, the only way for us to, that's an HSMV system, there's no way for us to do it.
Okay, so we'll go ahead, we'll continue with this. No. Oh.
Regarding the addresses matching up with the driver's license, I had somebody come in whose driver's license had since moved. In that case, would we just manually enter it? Because it didn't sync up, but I just told her to call the OMMU to ask about how to change your address, because obviously it's all kind of grayed out, you can't change the address. So is that the solution, you just manually enter it and don't sync it?
They've moved to a new address?
Correct. From when she has her driver's license, it's current and not expired, but she had since moved in the previous 6 months.
Yeah, you would just change it with HSMV. When they go to do their application, it'll pull over that new address.
So it would be easier to ask your patient to contact HSMV and do that switch, because that's going to take less time than it is, because if they don't and want you to put it in manually, then it goes into that, up to 10 business day review process instead of it being a same day. So they may have to wait a day or so for HSMV to do it, but it's still, I think, totally going to be faster if they just make sure that HSMV's got it corrected, and then you go back, they come back to you and do it after they've fixed it with HSMV.
All right, so I'm going to hit continue here to continue adding this patient. And so it's going to tell us unsuccessful HSMV match, of course, because it's not real information. So you could search again if you wanted to try it again, but we're going to do supply manually. It's going to take us to enter the information manually. So we'll say, on this page, we do also tell you what fields are required as you're going down it. So if there is, information that they don't have, some of these fields can be left blank. Like primary phone can be blank. Email address, you do want to enter an email address just because that's how they're going to access the registry. So we'll say, enter their date of birth, SSN. You can select the gender here. Not 2000.
Do you remember all these numbers?
No, I'm typing these randomly. You'll enter their address, their city, you'll select a county, zip code, and so if the person's a permanent resident, you'll leave this yes. If they're seasonal, you're going to hit no. It's going to expand this. It's going to give you your seasonal question. You'll hit yes here. And you'll select the state that they're a permanent resident of. But for the purpose of this, we'll keep them permanent. And then if they need more than one caregiver, you would check this box down here, of course, if they meet these requirements. We'll save the patient. So a patient was saved successfully. It's going to tell you that up here. It's going to bring you immediately over to the Manage Caregiver tab. So here you can indicate yes if you do want to add a caregiver. You can indicate no if they don't need a caregiver. So for this, we will say no. It's going to bring you right over to the physician certification, page 1 of 3. The questions have not changed for the certification. These are all exactly the same as in the existing site. Since it's this person's first certification, we do have to do the physical examination.
Hang on one sec. Let me bring the camera. The folks from Zoom can't hear the questions from the audience.
So after you finish the patient information caregiver screens, can you stop there, like save and continue later? Because
Yes.
just workflow-wise in the office, this isn't happening at the same time.
Yes, you can.
Okay.
So we'll continue here. It's going to bring us to page 2 of 3 to select a qualifying medical condition. Just to show you guys it populating some certification documents, I'll choose a few different things. I'll do the SKC, and we'll just choose PTSD. It's going to give you the messaging SKC is required. We'll hit continue. It'll bring you to page 3 of 3 of the physician certification. It'll give you the start date, and then we'll select the duration. We'll say 210 days. Create certification. Was created successfully. It's going to bring you over to the orders. And so the orders are separated by tabs. Instead of them being all on one screen, we did try to segment that a little bit to make it a little more digestible. So low THC, we'll go ahead, we'll add some routes here. We'll authorize a delivery device, and then you can enter any notes or dosing instructions for the patient. It'll give you a quick summary of your low THC orders from this page. You can also do a few things. You can adjust the amount. You can unauthorize or authorize delivery devices. You can also add routes from this page.
Yeah.
So we'll continue. It's going to take us over to add medical marijuana order.
Can the MMTC see the notes from the doctors if you said there was an order, if they could put additional notes after the routes, if there was something specific that they either wanted them to do or not wanted them to do, does the MMTC be able to see that?
Yes. MMTCs can see the physician notes.
Hang on. Y'all are going to make me run today.
So you guys have changed the order with which things are listed. It used to always be oral, then edibles, then topical, then sublingual, then inhalation. Now you changed all of the order to confuse all of our paperwork?
It's just in alphabetical order now. The little things, yeah.
That's going to put the office right over the edge.
So we'll move forward with this. We're going to say add here. We'll see our medical marijuana orders. We'll go ahead and continue, and then it will bring us to smoking. We'll add the smoking order. We'll just say 2.5. I forgot to say medical marijuana. And so because of what we've ordered this person, it's going to give us some messaging. First time getting smoking by this physician, so they're going to have to do the ARF. We've also entered some amounts that are going to populate an RFE. But before we get there, it's going to bring us to the order summary, show you what you ordered for each of the types, what routes are there, and then from here you can also edit. Or you can navigate back using these tabs up here. But if it's good to go, we can hit save and continue. This should look familiar. Verify the proposed amounts are accurate, acknowledge and save, and it should bring us right over to the certification documents. And so we know immediately what documents we need to submit for this patient's certification. So from here, you can do all of that managing of the documents. You can go into each one of these, enter the required information, and submit. All from the patient profile page, really without having to navigate too far away. As far as activating, deactivating, those buttons are located right here whenever you want to pick somebody up or deactivate a patient. But really, we did try to just clean up the site and make it just a better user experience for everybody. Real quick, I can jump into the certification documentation dashboard. You have to select your parameters first. You can search by a specific patient, or if you want to see documents for all of your patients, you can come over here, select the document you want to see, choose the document states you want to see. It'll show you all of the pending documents. We also did do an export option, so if you want to export your list of pending documents, submitted documents, you can export that list just to know what needs to be submitted, so you have a list. We did also clean this page up a little bit, unclosed, unsigned certifications. A lot of times there are certifications that are pending closure. The orders have expired, they've been canceled, but the physician has not actually gone in and signed to close the certification or reported adverse events, controlled substance dependency, that sort of thing. So from this page, you can actually see those certifications that are pending those closure activities. You can go into those and close them from here.
Does that include deceased patients? Hang on. Question was, does that include deceased patients?
Yes, because you do have to go in and still sign to close their certification. So yes, those would populate here.
I'm curious why we have a section to approve or not approve a device, a delivery device. I'm not sure what circumstances that you'd be doing recommendations and then say, no, my patient can't get a delivery device. To me, that seems like it should be an automatic and shouldn't be there.
Yes.
Got you, okay.
You don't for flour, but you do for the others, is that correct?
You authorize delivery devices for every order type and route.
But the law says for flour, I'm allowed to actually purchase it from, not from MMTC. It doesn't say that for other routes, but it does for flour.
I believe so, yes.
Question over here.
I have two. Going back to the 893, is that the only reason a patient's card would show as suspended, or are there other reasons why it would show up for the physician?
Per statute. Per statute, yes, that's the only reason. So, and to clarify, 893 is basically felony possession, felony transport, felony. That's what the 893 is that the police are going to report. But per statute, yes, it's only going to be the 893. So, okay. Cop not pleased with you, you didn't speak to him the right way, that's not going to fly. It's going to be someone who has committed a crime. They're going to report it to us, and then we'll act at that point.
Okay. And then my second question was back on the caregiver tab that was there. Can that default to no, so that if a caregiver doesn't apply, the doctor can just skip that tab?
On the caregiver tab, yeah. Yes, you would have to hit either yes or no. It just defaults to yes.
Could it default to no, so they can just skip that tab when it doesn't apply, so it's not an extra step for them?
We can see about that change. See if that's something we can include.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
All right, hang on. Come here and then there.
Thank you. So the vast majority of patients that I'm seeing are actually coming into this system. I'm not searching patients. I'm looking at my patient list all day long. Why the preference on putting the people search in the tab? I'd love my patients to be the very first thing that I see when I open the OMMU or sign into it.
So I think the idea behind that was patient management is really to manage your patients. People search is more frequently used if you're looking for somebody who's not assigned under you. And so we wanted to put all of the options.
I understand why it's used, but am I just an outlier? I don't, maybe a single digit, a few percentage of my interactions with this system are people search. Like I said, I'm just constantly putting my patient's name into the My Patient list. Can I have a My Patients tab up there so it's easy for me? Or am I just an outlier in this?
Well, we can see about that for sure. But the idea was, My Patients, managing your patients, every activity to manage your patients going under the patient management drop down. But if it would be better for it to be outside, that is something we can talk about doing.
I had a few questions. The first one is related to the delivery device. We've never put in an order without allowing the delivery device, and I'm wondering if you can auto-populate all of those with a yes, we would like the delivery device for every order that is entered, and then the physician can simply unselect a delivery device.
I'm sorry, I was actually trying to look at where that was coming from. Okay. Yeah, again, that is something that we can take back if that is a more frequent use case by most physicians. Okay. So yes, that is something that we can take back as well and see about doing.
Thank you. That would be wonderful to not have to click all of those boxes. And then you had mentioned a date that these changes were going to be implemented. What was that date?
So this will be live for physicians Tuesday morning.
Question over here.
This is great. Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
So this is just a suggestion. So the browser that you're using will allow you to configure what's on the menu bar, right? And a lot of software has configuration options and files where you could put things in places or select defaults for various kinds of things. Long term, a single update, probably not, but long term, it makes a lot of sense to do that. So, because different users have different ideas about what they want where and how they want to default. And there's no one way that's going to be right for everybody, right? But if you give them the option, and, just make a configuration button or file. And they'll have to wade through it one time or maybe a couple times, but they get to make it their own and it focuses on what they want to do or how they want to do it. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Cheers.
Question over here.
I have a question about the alternate routes form. You have all that information already in the system. Why are we required to fill out a form and look up all those previous first time they've used inhalation or whatever, if it's already in there?
I don't know if I could answer that. I know that is a form that's required by the boards, so that would have to be something for them. It is for research purposes, so it's a form they request.
Hang on, Doc.
So getting back to the felony checklist or drop down, the 892 was it?
893.
893. Is that any felon?
No, it's just the drug possession felony. It's got to be it's statute 893. So it's got to be that. It's got to be an 893 statute violation, which is possession of narcotics and stuff. So that's the only one. Like she said, the other felons and stuff, our statute only reads that we suspend on an 893 a felony drug charge.
Okay, so Donald Trump can still get his card?
Yes.
Okay.
So that is it for the demo. That's really, it's got all the same functionality that came from the existing site. We just really did try to refresh it, make it look a little better, make it flow a little better. And we do appreciate the suggestions as well, and we do really take those back and listen to them and try to get those implemented if we can. So thank you all for giving me the time to show the demo. Hopefully you enjoyed it.
It's good to see that people are really not interested in this topic. Anyway, we still have time available, and we're going to bring up EP, and he's with Florida A&M and the Medical Marijuana Education and Research Initiative. And so, EP, come on up. GP, I'm sorry. GP. I will tell you that I'm going to be talking with Chris to see if we can possibly get this demonstration onto one of our Zoom calls. In fact, I'm going to see, I don't know if he's available, maybe Wednesday is push a call for Wednesday night at 6:30. And I can send out, if you're not on my database, come over to my table. I'll just give me your email address, you'll get on it, and he can go through the same thing again just to get your other people onto it. So just let me know.
Good morning, everyone. That was an excellent presentation from Carmen, Todd, and Chris. So if you notice what Todd mentioned earlier when he was introducing Chris, that he's the IT supervisor. Basically, if this breaks, blame him. You have his face. So, but it's a pleasure to be here. It is quite an opportunity, and I look back and I tell myself we've come a long way. There was a time that when we would come together like this and talk about cannabis, there's a lot we did not know. There's a lot we did not know. A lot of the things we knew were anecdotal, and now we've got, patient use cases where doctors could talk about experiences and what they're seeing. And if there's one thing that can hardly be disputed, is that as Americans, your experience is your experience. When people start talking about what they've been through, we listen. That is what they went through. They went through that. You didn't go through that, they did. And we do our best as a civil society to respect that. And I would say personally that that has helped a lot to advance the cause of our neighbors, our friends, our families, and even people that don't want to talk about cannabis listening, because that is your experience. You've been through it. Now, it matters how the delivery matters. It matters how it's presented. And that also makes an impact. And so when we talk about pros and cons, cannabis is good for you or cannabis is not good for you, it matters how it is delivered. Years back, I had an experience that has stayed with me. I had to go see my dad. It was the year 1999. After New Year was his birthday, January 4th, and we celebrated. I bought him a bottle of wine, and we celebrated together. And we talked. We had plans. He asked me about New Year resolutions and my goals for the year and all that. And truthfully, at the time, I was not a big fan of goals and New Year resolutions, but had plans, things to accomplish. And so we talked, and then he told me something, and that stuck with me, and I'll tell you why it stuck with me. He said, "Son, though times may change, as they sometimes will, do not be quick to change with it, but with wisdom and understanding, carefully observe the trend of events brought about by the change of times, and you shall learn stability and mark excellence in the midst of changing times." That was what my dad told me. It stayed with me, and I remember that. In January, we talked. He died in February. It was a hard, hard blow. And so, when we talk about people's experiences, that's the mode and the attitude we bring in when we're talking about conversations on cannabis. We travel across the state. Florida A&M University is blessed to be the program that the legislature has mandated to educate Floridians about medical and unlawful use of marijuana. We take this very seriously. We're still in the South, as much as we sometimes want to forget. And of course, we all know Florida is one of the most conservative states we've got. And I could even dare to say it is going to stay conservative for a long time. And so we learn to work with each other even when we disagree. We have conversations. And sometimes I tell whoever cares to listen, I've got friends that don't believe in cannabis, whether it's good for you or not. They've gone through experiences and they know what is done to members of their families. And so they're stuck with that. And so the conversation needs to keep happening to be able to get them to someplace. And so we talk about it. I'm sure the same thing happens with you. We do not have to be enemies because we disagree. Actually, that's the reason we should talk some more. Have conversations, learn from each other, listen. It's as simple as that. We have conversations, we educate each other, we keep an open mind, and we listen. We listen not to respond, but we listen to understand each other, and there's a big difference. Unfortunately, we've been listening to respond. We already have our preconceived notions about what the other person is already going to say. And we already have a response ready. And so whatever they were saying just goes past us. And so when it's time to respond, we're responding with our preconceived notions. We didn't even listen. And they do the same thing to us. And guess what happens? We're in an impasse. No progress. And so you are in a very unique position as doctors, respected, very respected members of society. When you say something, it matters. That's why your patients come to you. They listen to you. Yes, there's Google, but they still come to you. And you educate them, you talk with them, and you listen to them. I pray that you do listen to them, because they're the ones going through the experiences. We talk about patient-centered care. There is nothing more patient-centered than treating your patients with cannabis. It responds to our bodies differently. And so, yes, it is an opportunity and a privilege to be speaking with you here and telling you about the things we've done and the things we continue to do. I've got a lot of slides, but trust me, I'm not going to go through all of them. I'm not sure which one I'm pushing for next. Okay, thank you. Now, that's the mission of the Florida A&M University. And before I move on, I'd like to recognize my colleague, Michelle. Michelle directs our engagement and outreach. Yeah, she is brilliant and phenomenal. Anthony should be somewhere, I'm not sure. Hey, there's Anthony. Anthony's got years of law enforcement. And so as a team, we come together. And there is TJ. TJ is the one with the camera. And TJ goes with us and documents. You know, there's a saying that documentation trumps conversation. So when we talk about what we do, and I've got to tell the legislature, they want to see. So, yeah, so they see your faces too. And they know, yes, this really happened. Now, this has been our mission, and we're blessed that this is the mission. And I just want to run through some slides, and then we'll have a conversation too. Now, there are components to our mission: education, community engagement, communications, and there's also a fourth one, research, and I'll talk to you about that. And so, we've done a lot of things. A lot of times I tell people, when you see us smiling, it's not because we're high, it's because we're happy with what we're doing, and the people we're meeting, and the conversations we're having. So it's been a blessing to crisscross the state and listen to Floridians learn. We're always learning. No one person knows it all. My mom told me, if you find someone that tells you they know it all, run away from them. And of course, we've done a lot of things. And if there's anyone that in the state of Florida that wants to say, I've not heard about cannabis, I don't know what's going on, I don't think they're telling the truth. They do know. They have a position, not that they don't know what's going on. And so we've been able to reach a number of people through different methodologies. So we've got a website, and through the quarters, each quarter starts from July 1st, you know, July to September, October to December, and then thereabout. And so the fiscal year starts July to June 30th. And so you could see through the quarters. When we launched MMERI on demand, in the first quarter, we just had 92. And by the fourth quarter, you had 19,000. So there's been a tremendous, you know, huge growth there in what we've seen and what we've done, and people keep coming. And so we've got community engagements, events. Michelle and Anthony always crisscrossing the state. You know, feel free to invite them to come and talk to your team. We're blessed such that we can accommodate that and come with materials and resources that's free to you. It is free 99. We're not charging you for anything. The legislature took care of that. And so we've got a lot of things, a lot of people we reach, community engagement through the various quarters. I'm going to go through it. It's going to be a PowerPoint that will be available. Please, at your leisure, look through it, and we'll get, and if you have questions, reach out to us. And so we've got, in our community engagements and events, usually what I tell members of the legislature is, Mary's everywhere. You know, just like the Bible says that where 2 or 3 are gathered, the good Lord is there. Mary's everywhere where 2 or 3 are gathered. Now, I tell them that we're at churches and at brothels, and they laugh. I'm not there, but we have people there. So we try to reach every Floridian wherever they are. You could be sitting at a bar, and we have someone there, you know, handing you a brochure or a pamphlet, wanting to talk to you about medical and unlawful use of marijuana. It is important. People in the brothels are Floridians too now. And so we have a lot of outreach. And so every mode of outreach, we have them. And so we have radio spots, you know, and we also do TV, lots of impressions. So the trick is reaching people multiple times. It is important. The first time may not register, the second time, the third time. And I think, you know, we know this is, you know, the trick about repetition. You keep repeating, repeating, keep talking about it, and then someone eventually is going to register with them. And so, talk about print ads, we're there. It's a dying art. A lot of newspapers are, are just folding because they're not being funded. A lot of people want to be online, but there's still a lot of us that still want to hold a newspaper. I do not always like to look at a screen. I like to look at a newspaper once in a while, and I'm sure a lot of us do too. But it's a dying art. My son is 13. He sees me looking at a newspaper. He asks, "Daddy, what are you doing?" I said, "I'm reading." It's a newspaper. So you could do it online. I said, "But I prefer the newspaper." So most likely with you too. And you might say, "Well, you don't look that old. Why a newspaper?" My dad liked newspapers. And so you talk about TV spots, we're there. A lot of impressions, and we're educating Floridians about this. And when we talk to them, we're always talking to them about, consult with your doctor, talk to your doctor. Talk to your doctor. We don't give medical advice. We don't. We don't give legal advice. We tell people, talk to your doctor. And also, if you want to learn more, we have website. We bring in experts, your colleagues. Some of you are here. Dr. Berger was just, with us last month. Was it this month? Can't even remember. Was it last month? So, yeah, and Dr. Barry and a lot of you, And so Michelle and Anthony are going to be reaching out to you too, to talk to you about collaborating and reaching out. There's a lot. The more the landscape changes, the more we need to educate people, the more we do. There's a lot of misinformation and disinformation out there. And so the same thing, that was last fiscal year, this current fiscal year, the same thing. And one of the highlights of the things that we're doing, the focus, is reaching populations in the elementary and middle schools. Last year, when I was presenting in front of you, I told you my son came home and he said, "Dad, a couple of my classmates OD'd and they had to call the ambulance to come take them out." And I'm talking about kids, in an A school, kids that are already discussing about, what they want to become in the future. Some of them want to be astronauts, teachers, firefighters, lawyers, and all that. These are smart kids making stupid decisions. And sometimes they don't even know how stupid decisions they're making. There's no ill intent in what they're doing. No, they're just being kids. We did stupid stuff when we were growing up, and I think we turned out fine. But the thing is, when kids bring in THC-infused substances into schools and start sharing, it has an impact. Now, thank God none of them died, because those substances could have been laced with other things like fentanyl, which we know is fatal, but we need to educate those kids and help them understand the value of making good choices. And so when we talked about that, so we've had a hard time reaching those kids because a lot of the schools don't want to lose their federal funding. And so we partner with the Boys and Girls Club, and we're just starting, we just launched that, and we're reaching those parents and the kids. There's been a high prevalence of kids utilizing those substances in elementary school. Forget high school, elementary and middle school. And I'm sure you're seeing it when your patients come to you, or your parents, the parents, of your patients come to you and talk about it. Please talk to them. And so, we did the same thing across this fiscal year. The fourth quarter is blank because we're currently in the fourth quarter. When the data is available, we're going to populate that too. Now, I'm going to move on real fast, and I'm going to go to one of the things that we want to look at. So, it is interesting that, Spotify did a study. They funded this thing that they talked about the attention span. And before they did this, there was another one that I had read about, that it is incredibly, incredibly sad that our attention span is shrinking. And it's not far-fetched. I tell whoever cares to listen that social media is dumbing our kids. Each generation gets dumber than the one before. And so, when you think about what it does to the brain, those short videos, TikTok, the hits, it's a type of high. The clicks, just want to move on to the next thing. It does something to the brain. And our kids spend a lot of time on that. They spend a lot on those short videos, short this, just get to it, get to it, get to it. Their attention span has really shrunk. If you told me 10 years ago that our attention span will be shorter than that of a goldfish, we used to joke about it. But now it's a reality. In our lifetime, can you believe that? It is getting shorter and shorter. And these are the people that we have to educate. We have to adapt and meet them where they are. We can't bring them to where we are, so you meet them where they are. If the attention span is shrinking, then you do what? You adapt. You adapt your materials, you adapt your conversations, and meet them where you are. And for us, that's what we call explaining to a 4-year-old what color the number 4 smells like. It doesn't make sense to you, but you find a way to make it make sense. And that's how we stress the importance of educating, learning, and talking. My dad used to say, if you can't reach them via intellect, if you can't reach them via intellect, appeal to their emotions. Appeal to the intellect. If that doesn't work, appeal to the emotions. Every human being, we've got some more of the other. Some people are more intellectually inclined, and some people are more emotionally intelligent. You appeal to both. Every human being can be reached. You just got to find that sweet spot. Their intellect or their emotions. Or you can do both. And so we had one of our partners do this study about cannabis and candy. And so we started asking Floridians in metro areas, most of the areas that you operate in. We didn't want to talk about rural areas. Trust me, we get calls from rural areas. We used to get calls from rural areas when we sent out materials. They called us drug dealers, that we were the worst thing since, that God put on earth. They're going to report us to the government and all whatnot. And we'll call them and say, hey, this program is mandated by the legislature to educate you. We're not trying to get you hooked on marijuana or anything. That's what they thought we were trying to do. And so, those are slides, billboards across certain strategic places across the state of Florida. We had them. And so we asked questions. It was a sample of men and women 18 to 64. They were residents of Florida, and they mirrored the census population. And so you look at the demographic groups, you look at race and ethnicity, and you looked at the metro areas that we looked at, practically covering almost the entire state. And so we asked, sampling stats. This is what we found. The 2 billboards featuring candy and gummies were the most attention-grabbing, while the 2 featuring speech bubbles were the least effective. So the ones that had candy gummies that were more colorful were the most attention-grabbing. And that goes to reinforce the fact that we live in an age where people see with their feelings. People think with their feelings, okay? When somebody wants to say, I think, you most likely hear generations after us saying, I feel. People think with their feelings these days. And so when people think with their feelings, it matters how something makes them feel for them to even connect with you. And so this is how the billboards made them feel. It made them, they preferred the gummies, the pictures. They were more colorful. Consumers chose the colorful gummy bears billboard as clear favorite, and it was also most likely to spur conversations with their children, friends, family about recreational cannabis use. However, also popular was the billboard E, which was just said, educate, learn, talk. It didn't say nothing more, just educate, learn, talk. You could interpret it which way. And that's what happened. And so, the colorful gummies was also most likely to get viewers to take action, which is important. So take action, talk about what was going on. And so, here are the billboards again. C, A and C were the most popular. Of all, C was the most popular and the most favorite. And this is what people had to say. Basically, this is how the data spread. You're going to see this when you get the PowerPoint. But I want you to see this. For A and C, what did you like best about this billboard and what stuck out most? Protect kids. The message in general. Education on cannabis. Okay? That was for A and C. That was for A. And for C, the same thing. The gummy bears, the pictures. Protect kids. Education on cannabis and gummies. All right. I'm going to go back again. What did you like best about this billboard? That's B and D. Cannabis and recreational cannabis, the information about it. A reminder, general information, that it's not legal. Education and information, the law, 11%. And then on the other side, the same thing. But then you also have people that talked about they felt like, it was fear-mongering, and I think it's in the next one. What did you like best about this billboard? What stuck out the most? And that was E. 42% said educate and learn talk was informative. Simple, informative. Get people to talk about cannabis, 19%. Easy to understand and all that. All right. And this is interesting. What do you dislike most about this billboard? And this was A and C. They generally just dislike it. The gummies on the background, that's for A. Remember, it was the green one that had the gummies in the background, that was A. And then 10% said it was negative and fear-mongering. And you could go down and look at all that. 1% there said it was promoting cannabis, which was not. But that's negligible. And for the gummies, for C, they did not like gummies, candy. The billboard can influence children negatively and get kids involved. The opposite of what the billboard was trying to do. 10% thought that. They did not like it. Don't even have the conversation. By mentioning it, you're making kids more likely to use it. Now, of course, I disagree with that, but that was their opinion. That was what they disliked about it. And the same thing with B. What do you dislike most about this? And they said the recreational cannabis, that recreational cannabis is illegal. They don't want to hear that. What does that mean? They're for it, and they can't wait, to vote. And the other ones, 14% generally dislike it. And 12% thought it was fear-mongering, it was too negative. On the other side, you could see that too. Again, that recreational cannabis is illegal, and it was fear-mongering, and they generally dislike it. So they don't want to hear that it's illegal. All right. What do you dislike about the one that said educate, learn, talk? It said it's hard to read. It said the print was small. Just talking about drugs or cannabis in general. And it said it was boring and doesn't stand out. They just generally dislike it. So everyone had an opinion, and that is fine. We all don't have to agree. Okay, here's the thing about A and C. What do you think the goal of this billboard is? And what are they trying to get you to believe? or do as a result of seeing it. Protect kids. Awareness that cannabis can be mistaken for candy. Check the ingredients. Educate. Get people to talk about cannabis and all that. The same thing on the other side. Protect kids. Awareness. And so the billboard and the messaging did its job. The same thing with D. What do you think the goal was? Remind that cannabis is illegal. And even though they disagreed about not wanting to talk about it, they understood what the message was. And so the other one was negativity towards cannabis. Get people not to use it, no legalization. We don't have a dog in the fight. I have my opinions, but when I'm on the clock, I don't have one. And so for right now, I am neutral. But some people thought we're trying to get them not to legalize cannabis. And then on the other side, for Billboard D, remind that cannabis, recreational cannabis, is illegal. And they also talked about the negativity towards it. All right. And for E, we're talking about, so what do you think about this billboard? The same thing. Educate, learn, talk. In general, it was to educate. And so we gathered all this information, of course, in addition to the quantitative data, it's also helpful to have the qualitative data. And so, the positives of A and C, which were the billboard gummies. I like that the safety of children is being put first. I also like that people are being educated about cannabis. You could go down and read it. And of course, you look at the negatives. I am not sure exactly what the billboard is trying to say. It does not specify that, and it is confusing. I don't like how candy was involved, and of course, that must be the percentage that talked about, don't even talk about cannabis and gummies with kids. But again, they all agreed the goals were achieved, letting parents know that they should know what the ingredients are to keep their children safe, because the packaging can be very misleading. And I'm sure Carmen and Todd and Chris and OMMU, they're going to be looking at that, and they do look at it and enforce it to make sure it's not confusing what the packaging looks like. And so we got all this information, and one of them said, be responsible about how to store your cannabis if medically prescribed, recommended. It can be misunderstood by kids, and that it's real candy. And so this is real. And so B and D, we also got, the narratives from there. So what I like most was the conversations on cannabis. Everybody should have that talk, and that stuck out for that individual. And then the negative there, it says the tone. I felt like it was biased, as if cannabis is a negative thing. And all we did was say check the ingredients and presented, the cannabis gummies. And of course, when it comes to the goals, it says alerting state citizens and visitors about the legality of cannabis in Florida. Don't smoke pot if you don't have a medical prescription for it. That's what one person said. Have an open and informative talk about recreational cannabis. That's what another said. And these were the positives for the billboard E. And of course, you could go through it and look at it. Said at first it felt like they were trying to recruit those for legalizing recreational marijuana. I'm looking at the goals at the far right there. But then, now I think it's just simply trying to start a conversation and opening doors to learn about its potential benefits for health issues and consequences. And that's what we did. And so, looked at the favorite billboard. Of course, C stood out for people that said which was their favorite. And of course, you look at men and women. Again, the C stood out. Women preferred it more, actually. Okay? And of course, you can look at demographics, the 18 to 24s. the 25s to 34s, and so on, who liked what? Which billboard appealed to them? And of course, by race, also see that. Which one appealed to which race more? And then, we wanted to also bring this to light. We've talked about this a lot. A quick search, the poison control, cannabis, and all these things come out, all these articles. And there's one thing that stands out there. Children, 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 children. As a dad, it matters to me. And I'm sure it matters to you too. And I can tell you that from what we've seen, from the visits to our website and the data we're gathering, there's a population that are really concerned about recreational cannabis. And that is parents with school-aged kids. Parents with school-aged kids. And for those parents, medical marijuana is accessible, hemp is legal, and we're having incidents in schools. What happens when recreational becomes legal? And there's access. More access. How do we protect our kids? Okay? How do we protect them? It doesn't matter what side you're on. We've got a job to do, folks. Okay? We do. And so, we saw this yesterday from the poison control people. Again, you look at the top 15 exposure, excluding opioids, and cannabis, just dominated the chart. In one form or another, it dominated the chart. And so, it's important that when we listen to people talking about their concerns, we learn to listen to each other and have a conversation. Conversation, learning from one another, a conversation where we're listening to understand, listening not to respond, but to understand. And approach every conversation as if you're trying to explain to a 4-year-old what color the number 4 smells like. And it's important that for us, when we're out there talking, I have to lose the tie, put on a jean, put on a t-shirt, and look the part. So the people we're talking to, remember, we have to educate everyone. From the uneducated to the most educated, highly educated in our society. We have to do it all. And we have to adapt the messaging to reach all. And so we can't assume that because I have the mic, I know better than the audience. We learn from each other, and we listen to each other, and we do our best to find a common ground. And at the end of the day, we're all Americans. Okay? We're not enemies. We're just trying to do what's best as we see fit. And I'm going to end by saying that I believe that God gave us nature. However, He gave us the ability as humans to create culture. He did not create culture for us. He left that to humankind to create culture. Whatever culture we create is a society we're going to live in. And the definition of culture we learn in elementary school is simply the way of life of any given people. So folks, it's been a pleasure having your audience, and I want to thank you for all you do. Thank you.
Well, thanks for joining the morning service. We have a little break to eat, and then Aaron Bloom will be taking the mid-morning service in about 30 minutes, so there is a break going on. I just want to let you know that I have confirmed with the OMMU that the presentation they made today will be made again on our Zoom call for our group, and that'll be on Wednesday, 6:30 on Zoom. If you're not getting my emails relating to that, just stop by and see me, give me your email address, and get on the database. But they'll go through the presentation again if you're interested to get your staff, your administrative people that actually kind of take care of a lot of this stuff. So, and it'll be open to everybody, not just the doctors.